in that, with the window class, there might be a method to open, and that to open method within that class, so it's an instance method, will have very specific instructions on how to open a window. And then separately, you might have a class called car or automobile that also has a to open method that has explicit instructions on how to open a car door. And both of those to open methods will be different. So a class object inherently knows things about itself. So like a person class or a student class. So with that, let's create a new class named student. Class student. And just like a student has specific attributes about themselves. So if I wanted to create a new student, so you all enrolled in Platoon, or if you went to college, you went to school, you're a student. And anytime somebody enrolls in college or into school, like a new student needs to be created within their database, whatever university you went to, or if you did, or in Platoon. So when I create a new student, what attributes about a new student should be included? If I'm creating a new student, so we're in Platoon, everyone enrolled, or if I'm creating a new school called Tom Preet School and a new student enrolled into Tom's school, what do I need to know about that student?
Name.
Okay. So when I instantiate or initialize a new student, I need to do self. I need to know, okay, name. So let's break it down. First name, last name. What else might I need about a student? If I'm enrolling into a new school.
If they're remote or in person or part-time or full-time.
Part-time. So we have all that. We can have an ID. We can have
email address.
Email address.
Education level.
Education level. There's a million different attributes. So say I'm enrolling into a university. I'm going to enroll like a major or discipline. And when I create a new student, let's do like is enrolled. So I might like have filled out the paperwork, but I necessarily didn't enroll yet. So I can say like is enrolled. And the initial value, so if I want to create like whether a student is enrolled or not, and I don't provide it this enrolled value. So let's just do this first. So self dot first name equals first name. Self dot last name equals last name. Self dot ID equals ID. Self dot major equals major. And self dot is enrolled equals is enrolled. And I create a new class or a new student instance called Tom, and say student, like first name Tom, last name Preet. ID is, let's say, like 1, 2, 3. Major, economics, and then is enrolled is like false. And now I can print Tom. Yeah, I'm just going to print Tom right now. So I'm opening up the terminal. I'm clearing it. Now I'm going to Python OOP. There, I got my new student object that's created. But what if I didn't include is enrolled and I run this? What's going to happen? What do you think?
I want to say like invalid or incorrect command line or arguments or something like that.
Yeah, let's check that. Let's check it out. So oops, type error, init missing one required position argument is enrolled. If I don't include this, then it's going to throw an error. But I can provide is enrolled an initial value, like a default value, if it's not included. So I can say false. So is enrolled equals false initially. So if I run that again, let's clear that. It works. But if I include true, or let's actually chest it. Tom dot is enrolled. Run that, it's false. But if I decide to add true, now it's true. So that's one way you can provide default values to any value or any parameter that you want. So ID might be like none. Yeah, I'm just creating like random values. So if I don't include any of these, and I don't pass in any arguments, and if I run this, it still works. It just assign these O, X, none as default values to each instance variable. Does anybody have any questions about like the default values?
So what would be the purpose of giving default values normally?
Just in case you don't include, if it's like optional to include the argument. So just in case you don't include all the arguments, required arguments.
Okay. And then just to set default values, we can write it right inside the argument, just equals
Yep.
Whatever. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So like undeclared, like default value. So if I didn't include that, still work, but my major would be undeclared.
Tom,
Yep.
when a new student signs up, where is their information saved? So like if I'm signing up and another student's signing up, presumably you want to keep track of that information. Would you just push it to some array that you, some object that you build somewhere else, and then as people sign up, their stuff just populates into this other thing that you've created?
So how does it persist? Like through, so short answer is it'll be stored in a database. So yeah. But yeah. So like
couldn't you store the entire school enrollment in a class variable?
the entire school enrollment in a class variable. So
like everyone who's enrolled could be appended to a class variable or array.
Right.
Class array.
So you could say like, what is it? Like freshman equals like an empty array, and then, or like all students. But at that point, you get all students in an array in a student class. But what a student class should only hold one student, ideally. So that in that case, you'd probably create a totally separate class called like school. And in here, in the school class, you would store an array of students. And we're going to get to that next week. But yeah, so next week, we're going to get into different classes interacting with one another. And we're going to actually create a school. like a program that has a school, students, and all that.
I have a question, Tom.
Yep.
So if you go onto line 15 and make a print statement that says print Tom, I think, and then you run it in the terminal, I think that it would give you the address in memory.
Yep.
And why is that instead of printing? Because my initial expectation would be to print Tom and then get the values assigned to Tom. Why is my expectation that? But then it's shows the memory location. How should I discern that?
That's just the way Python works. So we get a student object at this memory location. That's just the way Python does it. There is another way. If we don't want to print this, we can, anytime we just print an object, we can give it a default of what we want it to print. And I can show that. I'll show that right now. So if I print this entire object, remember how before I did the dir? So if I print this again, I get all these different built-in dunder methods. If I grab the string or the R, our EPR, if I decide to do def string self, this says, hey, anytime you directly print this Tom object, I want it to return the first name and last name. So self.first name, and we're supposed to cover this later, but the question was asked now. So now when I print Tom, it should just return for Tom Preet. So if I clear that, there you go.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Tom.
Yep. And again, you can do something like that, or any information like name, Tom Preet, ID, self.id, just like any pertinent information you want to know about this student. Like so. And we're going to get into that later as well. But just know if you just print without the string you'll just get the student object. All right. So if I wanted to create a new student, so like Joan equals student, Joan, say like Greenwood, like some ID number, and like photography. There we go. So if I print that again, I got Tom. But if I print Joan and clear that, there I get Joan. So what kind of method is first name, last name, ID, major, and is enrolled? What kind of variable are they?
Instance variables.
Instance variables, correct. And so I created these students. None of them are enrolled yet. And I'm going to create an enrolled method called enroll student that takes in self and just self changes that is enrolled to true and returns. Let's just return self.is enrolled. So I got Tom. I can enroll Tom, enroll student, and invoke it. And I can check whether or not Tom is enrolled. Print Tom dot is enrolled, like that. So I created a new student, Tom. I'm not passing in any arguments for major or is enrolled. So major is undeclared and is enrolled is false. So if I run that, enroll student equals true, and then I can test whether or not the student is enrolled. So it's true. So I'm enrolling Tom, but now if I test whether or not Joan is enrolled, what should show up?
False.
False. Yep, false. So as someone said before, like we can, if I want to declare a class variable and then store how many students are enrolled at any given time, where can I do that? So if I wanted to create a class variable,
You do it at the top above
Yep.
all the methods.
Yep. So I can say like num of students enrolled equals 0 initially because they're all false. And when I enroll a student, how do I access? So before I do that, I'm going to say print Tom number of students enrolled. I'm going to clear that, run that. So initially, I created students, but I haven't enrolled them yet. So Tom, number of students enrolled is 0. If I do Joan, number of students enrolled, I get 0 as well. But now I want to increase anytime I execute or invoke this enroll student, I want to increase this number of students enrolled method or class variable by 1. So how do I access this class variable? Every time I enroll a student, I need to increment this by 1.
Would it be CLS dot the name of the variable?
Dot, let's see if this works. Number of students enrolled plus equals 1. Let's see if this works. I'm just gonna clear this. And I'm gonna invoke Tom enroll student and then check this. Uh-oh. Says CL class is not defined.
You just type student there instead of CLS.
So I want to actually call the student class. Student, the number of, so I'm actually calling the class and grabbing that class variable and incrementing it by 1. So if I clear it in the terminal and I execute, so I'm creating Tom, I'm creating a Joan student, and then I'm enrolling Tom. I don't even need to print. I just need to enroll it, and then I'm going to print the number of students enrolled. So right now there's 1, so because I enrolled Tom. I can also access by just calling student dot number of students enrolled. So I clear that again. So I'm accessing that class by this calling the student class name and accessing that class variable. Now if I enroll Joan as well, I can clear it. Uh-oh, what happened? Boolean value. Oh. Enroll student. So if I clear that, now I get 2 value, or I've got 2 students enrolled. What questions do you have about? So what kind of method is this enroll student?
It's a class method.
Is it?
It's an instance method.
Yep, it's an instance method. Again, if we want to explicitly say this is a class method, we call a decorator called class method, and we put that in there. So class method is a method. So if I say like at class method and say like def, just say print, sorry, show number of students enrolled. I can return number of students enrolled or something like that. And with class methods, I can actually invoke show number of students enrolled. I'm just going to delete all that by calling just student show number of students enrolled. Means this class method is invoked off of the class, not an instance of, not an instance of a class. So if I clear that, num of students enrolled. Why didn't that work? That's weird.
Wouldn't you have to call like CLS dot
Oh,
num
yep.
of students and
Thank you. So I can either do class, I think. Yep, like that, or call student. Thank you for, or that. We don't really use class methods that often.
When you say we, do you mean in this cohort or
Yeah.
in general?
In this cohort.
Okay.
Is there any special meaning to the @ symbol?
It's just a decorator. There is specific functionality of it. I don't know specifically off the top of my head. It changes. There's some explicitly like this changes how this works a little bit.